Wild horses are an iconic symbol of the West, and their numbers are managed by the Bureau of Land Management. But if left unchecked, these horses can double in size every 4 years. They gather the horses and then they offer those horses through an adoption program. So they've created an innovative partnership. And here to talk about some of these solutions and some of the challenges are the Bureau of Land Management. You're part of the Public Affairs Specialist, Heather Tiel-Nelson, and also we have with us Tina Reay. And Tina Reay, tell us your position at the 4-H.
I'm a 4-H leader for the Lone Star Riders 4-H out of Jim, Boise County.
Right, so you're part of the adoption solution
Yes.
as well. So let's talk about the Borough Act and like what that means, what's going on with that, and how that's impacting Idaho.
Right. So in 1971, the Wild and Free Roaming Horses and Burro Act passed, and it essentially set forth a mandate to the Bureau of Land Management and the Forest Service to manage healthy horses on healthy rangelands. And so at that time, there were about 25,000 wild horses roaming the range in the West in about 10 different Western states. We quickly realized that if left unmanaged or unchecked, a wild horse herd size can actually double every 4 years because they really don't have any natural predators. That's kind of when our adoption program began.
Okay.
Since that act passed in 1971, like I said, we've adopted out or placed into private care over 235,000 wild horses. Right around the late 1990s and early 2000s, we managed to adopt between 8,000 and 9,000 horses every year. Now we're looking at being able to adopt out more like 2,000 to 3,000 horses a year. And it just simply isn't enough to keep pace with the numbers that we really need to remove from the range. Today, we have over 67,000 wild horses on the range. What BLM has determined through our planning process is that the range can essentially sustain about close to 27,000 wild horses on the range. And that's in balance with all the other uses that BLM manages for. So whether it's wildlife habitat or livestock grazing. And so unfortunately what's happened is a lot of our livestock grazing permittees are not able to turn out on their permit because there's simply not enough forage because the wild horse numbers are so great.
Right, and this, for us here in Idaho, what does that mean taxpayer dollars? What does that mean economy? Because it costs a lot of money to maintain a horse. So when you adopt these horses out, one horse costs that adoptee how much, would you say?
Well, what I can speak to, yes, owning a wild horse or owning any kind of a horse is certainly an expensive endeavor. But when we have a wild horse on the public dole, so BLM is supporting all of those horses that have not been adopted go into a holding situation. Now, whether that's a long-term pasture in the Midwest or it's an off-range corral, what we estimate the cost to the American taxpayer for feeding one wild horse over its lifetime is about $50,000.
Wow.
It's tremendous.
It's tremendous.
It's tremendous.
So but if you do the numbers, 230,000 horses have been adopted. You do that stat with $50,000 per horse, and that's what's saving taxpayers over the course of the years, which is huge. Tina, how do you fit in? How does adoption fit into the solution for the wild horses?
So in 2009, the University of Idaho partnered up with the Bureau of Land Management, and we created a program called the University of Idaho 4-H and BLM Wild Horse Training Program. And we have helped adopt out more than 250 horses in the last 7 years. We've also helped raise more than $15,000 for 4-H clubs in our community.
Wow.
So it's definitely been a win-win for both BLM, for the Mustangs, and for the 4-H youth.
And basically they're getting these horses adoption ready.
Correct.
Right?
Yes.
So what does that mean to the average person that's watching this?
Yes. So the youth or the 4-H club will take the horse home for usually around 8 weeks and train them. So the horse is wild when they get it. Yeah. Totally wild. And it's amazing to see what they do. I mean, they train them to pick up their feet, to load in the trailer. You can touch them all over the body, which might seem like
you can't even approach them to begin with.
Exactly.
Right.
So not only are they training a weanling or a yearling Mustang for adoption, but they're getting all of that, experience too. So it's definitely a win-win.
Now, if people want to get more involved, let's start with the 4-H. How can they get more involved? I know there's a lot of different ways, so tell us all the different ways, because I'm sure there are a lot of people in our community that want to be part of this solution.
Well, so if you are a horse 4-H leader and if you're interested in participating in this program, definitely contact your extension office.
Okay.
So that would be a great way to partner. We're always looking for adopters. So come to one of the events. If you're looking for a horse that's very well started, come and support those 4-H youth. So, because if a horse adopts for like $600, $25 goes back to BLM, and the rest of that money goes to the club. So that's a lot of bake sales. So it really helps the 4-H clubs.
Okay, well, thank you so much. What great information, because I know there's a lot of misinformation out there. And when it comes to wild horses, there's so much that's going on, and there's so much statistically that has already been done. But definitely we need a little more with the solution from our community. So thank you for sharing. Thank you for being here.
Yeah, great.
Okay.